profile. Does he love the game? I think he loves being a star. Does he work hard? No. Is he smart? No. Does he play with a sense of urgency? No. Is he coachable? I guess. Is he talented? Super. I mean, he checks almost none of the boxes. That's why I'm not spending $30 million on him. I'm just not. All right, let's bring our friend Jason Cole in. Jason, how you doing, brother? You know what I just said about Micah Parsons? There's a lot.
I heard you. I heard what you were saying. I heard what you were saying.
Micah Parsons is like wearing out, like the Dallas Cowboys. I'm like, hey, if you're the Dallas Cowboys, figure it out. That's your job. That's what you're there to figure that stuff out as a coach in an organization. So when I hear that stuff, I hear that being more media stuff.
In terms of they're complaining about dealing with Micah, and therefore they're planting the information that Micah is hard to deal with.
No, more so that the media is seeing all of his podcasting and maybe some of the coaches and maybe even Jerry and his radio shows 2 times a week may have inferred that they were a little bit light in patience with that. But to me, like, this goes back to what you and I talk about with Jimmy Johnson. Mm-hmm. Hey, you're either going to coach Charles Haley, and you're going to coach Troy Aikman, and you're going to coach Michael Irvin. Those are all 3 different personalities. Get over yourself. For you to get the best result out of all those players, you can't coach everyone the same.
No, they're all individuals, and they all need to be, worked with in different ways. There's no question about it, right? Like, that's just like that's like management 101, right? Like, that's any business that you run, right? Where you're looking at, how do I get the best out of this employee? And yeah, that to me is the essence of coaching and managing people, is figuring out, how am I going to get the best out of this person? And if they're complaining about Micah Parsons, doing some things that, that make them annoyed, okay, guess what? That's what he's going to do.
I mean, I'll throw this at you here, Jace. September comes. Do you think CeeDee Lamb, or how about this, at the end of the 2024 season, is Micah Parsons, Dak, and CeeDee Lamb still on the Dallas Cowboys heading into the offseason?
You mean you're a year from now?
Yeah.
Basically? Yeah, there will be. I don't think they have any choice. They want to be good, right? Like, the only one in there that you say, I got some questions about, is Dak, because this season will sort of determine how big is the money. But it's like you and I talked about with Kirk Cousins, right? Last offseason. And Kirk Cousins did better than even I expected, right? And I expected a lot, and he did better than a lot, right? There's going to be a market for Dak Prescott. The Cowboys are just going to have to pay. So in all likelihood, Dak Prescott's going to be back next year as well, because there's no other choice unless they somehow find in the draft this year somebody that they think they can be the next guy. And the odds of that are really, really long. So if you're asking me, CD's going to be there. I think Micah's going to be there because they're going to have to pay Micah at a certain point because he's their best defender. And it's going to cost a lot. And I know that you're not necessarily into that, but I don't think they have any choice. They just have to pay him. It's sort of like what they did with Des Bryant. They waited a long, 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 long time. And they waited until basically the last minute they possibly could wait. And then they finally got a deal done with Des, because they had to have a gun held to their head, on that one. They couldn't get the deal that they wanted. They ultimately did it. It's going to be the same thing with Micah. It's going to be the same thing with Dak. It's going to be the same thing with CD. All those guys are going to be there.
Here's what I say about not paying Micah. I mean, what is Miles Garrett bringing, or TJ Watt's been there a decade in Pittsburgh? I mean, Jason, those guys are making a ton of money. I get Von Miller, when he was in Denver, but he didn't have that gigantic contract. Then he goes to Los Angeles, and then he goes to Buffalo. And I'm not saying Von was Super Bowl MVP. I get it. But paying an edge rusher $30 million when, quite frankly, I don't think that's how you win, man. I mean, you got to pay.
Silly, you're way too fixated on these numbers.
I am, because I think you have to have structural integrity in your cap across the board and on both levels. You need defense and offense.
You need to have star players. You need to. And
Kansas City has star players.
Yeah.
Who on defense?
On defense,
Chris Jones and who?
Chris Jones. I would say Bolton they haven't had to pay, but he's damn good, right? They have in the past they've had other players, like who was the safety they had a couple of
Honey Badger.
Yeah, they had Honey Badger for a while. They paid Honey Badger. They paid corners. They've paid people, but they've allowed certain guys to go. Look,
they just let Snead walk out the building.
I understand that. Snead's not on that level, and I understand that. So they weren't going to pay Snead, and they even let Tyreek go. But this last season, they paid. They almost didn't get there because they didn't have a trustworthy receiver, right? We talked about that before. They finally got enough out of guys like Valdez-Scantling at the end and some of the other guys to make it work. But they had problems at wide receiver, all season long. So they finally just caught the ball. But look, you still have to have star players. And you still have to have guys who redraw the X's and O's. You still have to have guys who are going to change how you do business. And if you have the quarterback be one of those guys, then he can make other guys better. It's easier for the quarterback to influence those guys than the other way around. Okay. And so they have that star quarterback, which is why I say it's always easier to build around a quarterback, because he allows you to have lesser players at other spots, and he allows for more consistency. So when I hear people say, oh, I don't want to pay a quarterback and I don't want to do this. Yeah, you might as well pay the quarterback if he's worth it. Right. And it's going to cost. But with the Cowboys, look, Micah Parsons is a great player. It's up to you to get the most out of him. And I think that you can afford to pay 3 or 4 different guys, $25, 30, even 40, even $50 million a year, because the rest of your roster in the NFL is so cheap, and the cap is at $250 million now, right? $30 million against $250 million cap. When you know that the bottom 30 guys on your roster are only going to cost you $30 million total. So you've got $220 million to play with for the top 25 guys on your roster. That is to spend on a few guys. Now, I always subscribe to the Belichick theory, is that the guys better be your best players. But I don't think anybody would say that Micah Parsons isn't the best defensive player that the Cowboys, and that if you're going to pay any one guy on the Cowboys, that's the guy.
I want to go to Buffalo. What'd you make of, and follow me here when I say Stefon Diggs.
Mm-hmm.
So this is now his 3rd team that he's on in the last 4 years. Vikings, Bills, and now Texans. They void the last 2 years, which is basically telling the player, he comes in, has a good year, they'll talk extension. Look what they did with Mixon. They traded for Mixon. They gave him a 3-year contract extension immediately.
Mm-hmm.
They did not give Stefon Diggs a contract extension. So my point is, Jace, I think, and people are like, the Bills are not going to be better without Diggs. Well, I think they are going to be, because you're going to be able to spread the ball around and not have to worry about getting targets to one guy. And this is going to put more of an emphasis on Sean McDermott. And I ask you, do you think McDermott is the right guy in Buffalo for Josh Allen?
Yeah, because I don't know what the better answer is, Allen. And I don't know which offensive coach is going to. Dayball was able to get through to Josh Allen and get him to be more consistent.
I think Joe Brady's done a nice job with him when he took over.
He's done okay, but I think also that there was a little bit of, they got rid of your boy, your former Canes
And
Dorsey. And I think there was a little guilt on Josh Allen's part at that point. I think he realized, look, I got a guy fired because he didn't play all that well. Because it was a guy that he actually liked and he got along with pretty well. But the guy got fired because Josh Allen was making a lot of mistakes. The issue at the end of the day is the player himself has to realize there are certain chances he's got to stop taking. There are certain mistakes he's got to stop making. And I don't know that anybody does that for a player like Josh Allen. I think the player does it for himself. You can talk to guys until they're blue in the face, until they understand, I got to stop throwing the ball up for grabs in certain times, right? Because nobody's going to sit Josh Allen. Like, there's not going to be the next coach who comes in and says, oh, I'm going to bench Josh Allen if he throws a weird interception here or not. He's the best you've got, man.
And the fact is, he's won 4 straight AFC championships, and he's got a 700 win percentage. I get the turnovers are what are holding. It's the only thing, Jason.
Right.
It's a big thing. I'm not saying it's not, because it's decision making.
It was the one difference. Look, he played better football, 80% of the time than Lamar Jackson, and they were even 10%, 15, the other 15% of the time. There's 5% of the time, however, where he just made some lunkhead throws, brain dead heaver kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
You just you can't do that, and it costs you games because he accounted for a ton of touchdowns and he did a ton of amazing stuff. He probably had the second best or third best year, depending on how you want to look at it, in the league. And he should have been way up there in the MVP voting. But the bad plays distracted from what could have easily been an MVP season and allowed Lamar Jackson, who was terrific, but not overwhelming, to win that award because he simply didn't make the mistakes. Like, Lamar Jackson has bought into what Baltimore's trying to do. Josh Allen, I'm not saying he hasn't bought into what Buffalo's trying to do, but he hasn't bought into the idea that you got to stop making some of these mistakes. You got to stop doing some of these things in order to just be a better player and make the life easier on your team. And to get back to your original point, if Stefon Diggs helps that, I don't know if that's true. I still want to have great players. And I don't know that, Gabe Davis hasn't impressed me, right? Like, he hasn't taken over. The 2 tight ends, including the rookie from last season, they're good. Yeah, but they haven't stepped up and been great. Like, you would expect those 2 guys should be similar to what they had with Gronk and Hernandez in New England for a while, where they allow you to flex out and do all sorts of amazing stuff on your offense. They haven't done that yet, partly because those guys were banged up last year. But that's where that's where you can see what Buffalo wants to get to. And I just think with Josh Allen, like, the one question I have about McDermott is he going to develop, and along with, Joe Brady, a good enough offensive, a good enough run plan in their running game that Josh Allen can stop running so much, like, where he can pick and choose when he wants to take off and be more like Patrick Mahomes, and not have to run all the time to generate yards. That's what they need to have happen in their offense.
Do you think Allen's the second best quarterback in the league?
I think he's the second most talented. Second best. Look, to me, turnovers matter. Bad turnovers matter. And I take away a lot of points on bad turnovers. It's like when Brett Favre was playing. Was Brett Favre maybe the best quarterback in the league a lot of the time?
3
talent.
touchdowns, 2 picks, a standard Brett Favre game.
Yeah, right. Does that make you the best quarterback in the league?
Probably not.
Probably not. Are you the most talented quarterback in the league? Yeah, probably. Like, nobody throws it farther than Josh Allen. Nobody, yeah, he's not the accuracy of Patrick Mahomes, but he's not real far off. He just, like, there's just again, there are brain dead heaver throws out there.
And the fumble 2 years ago against Minnesota, when you had to just kneel down, you win home field advantage that year. To me, is a play that, of all the plays I've watched him play that have been detrimental, that one there, I'm like, they had that whole Cincinnati situation where the defensive back got hurt and then they didn't play that game. All they had to do was kneel down. He fumbles it on the 1, and they lose that ball game, and they lose home field that year. That's the kind of stuff that's holding him back. But boy, it'd be hard pressed, Jason, for any, including Lamar, that I would take anybody over Josh Allen other than Mahomes.
Right. I would. And I said this on Twitter last year when I was saying Lamar Jackson's the MVP of the league for the regular season. Okay. As I was saying that, I was saying I would draft Josh Allen ahead of Lamar Jackson. I do think he's a better player to work with, but that doesn't mean that the performance was better than Lamar Jackson. It was not. Okay. And that's why Lamar Jackson earned, in my view, the MVP and ultimately won it. And Josh Allen easily could have, but you can't throw so many interceptions in negative territory. I think he threw six in negative territory, and not on, a lot of people say, oh, well, he just throws deep interceptions on third down that are like punts. No, not as many as you think. And every time you throw an interception that you give the ball at your own 40 or your own 30, as a defensive player, what do you think the defense is doing when they walk out there and they're like, I got to defend from my own 40? Like, it's like, yo, dude, stop throwing the ball to the other team. It's as simple as that.
Jason, let me pivot and go here with this. And we had a conversation yesterday, and I was talking to Coach Johnson last night about this. When you got a quarterback like Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy, and they have that just offensive huddle filled with so much talent, how do you get a sense of how good those players are? And the people in Philly, they go nuts over the fact, well, Jalen helped get the team to a Super Bowl. Rex Grossman did that. I mean, don't give me, that can't be the only metric.
Yeah, but objectively, that Jalen Hurts is a better player than Rex Grossman.
I do, but I don't think that Jalen Hurts is exceptional.
Because one didn't go to Florida and the other one did.
I forgot about that guy went to. Okay, you're right. Maybe I subconsciously knew it too. All right,
right. But you know what I'm saying? Like, humor aside, if you just look at Jalen Hurts and you go, he's not the perfect quarterback, but he's damn good, and I can win football games with him, and I can formulate an offense with him, and I can, if I get the right people around him, I can win a lot. I mean, they won a lot of football games last year.
11.
Even as the season was going into the crapper, right? Even as people were complaining about, oh, this is terrible, it's not good, they're still winning a lot of games, and they're playing good football most of the time. And this is on the heels of going to the Super Bowl, right? Like, this guy can play. This guy can make you a consistent winner. Is he the guy who is going to overcome a ton of 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 situations in critical moments? That's the big question. How much can he do that? Because you and I both know that on the way to winning a Super Bowl, you're going to have in every game somewhere between 3 and 6 of those plays every single game.
Absolutely.
Right. And can you overcome them? Like in Dak Prescott's case, the answer is usually not. which is why Dak Prescott, I think, will be lucky to win 1, maybe 2 Super Bowls if everything goes right in his career. Jalen Hurts is probably about the same guy, maybe a little bit better because I think he's a better runner and can create some situations. But is he Patrick Mahomes, who you say, I know that guy can make those plays? I know that guy can do it. Or is he even as good as Brock Purdy, who I think has that ability to make those plays in the right situation?
Oh, I think Purdy's better in the pocket than Hurts, and I don't think it's even close.
Oh, no, Purdy's, look, people underrate that Purdy, when surrounded by the right kind of talent, is as accurate, as quick with the ball, has incredible vision. I mean, look, he went toe-to-toe in the Super Bowl with Mahomes. They didn't lose that Super Bowl because Brock Purdy didn't make enough plays. They lost it because they missed a couple of key opportunities. They botched a punt. They did this. There were like three or four critical plays that they didn't make. But the quarterback was fine. Was he better than Mahomes? No, not. He was not. But he went toe-to-toe with Mahomes as well as any other quarterback in the league was capable of going.
Do you believe, speaking of San Francisco, does Kyle Shanahan win a Super Bowl in San Francisco, or does Kyle Shanahan win a Super Bowl somewhere else?
In the back of my mind, and there's no logic to it, I keep thinking that Kyle Shanahan is a tragic figure who, as great as he is, and maybe a better play caller than even his father was, and that's saying a lot.
He sure is.
Right. As good a coach as he is, and maybe even a better coach than his dad, right? In a lot of tangible ways. That he may never win a Super Bowl and will have to endure the agony of wanting to exceed his father and chasing his father into the same profession, doing the same thing, and will have to live with the fact that he cannot match what his father did.
You think that hurt? You think that weight of what his dad's accomplishments have done is something that, again, is a weight on him mentally and personally, when you know for a fact, hey, that'd be like, look at the weight the Manning kids had. I mean, the father was an MVP in the league. They superseded and Archie's, I've talked to him. He's extremely happy that his son's dead.
Right.
But I mean, and every father wants to see their son exceed the expectations. That's why you have kids. But I mean, look, that's got to be a weight on him.
Of course it's a weight on him. Now, do I think he beats himself up every single day about it? No. But I think like he loves this profession. He got into it because he was a ball boy, all those years and on the sideline. He was talking to his dad and he loved it. And he loves his dad, right? All those, there's no negative to that. But there is a desire to prove yourself and to prove that you're up to snuff, that you can do these same things and you're just as great as your father. Absolutely. Everybody lives with that who goes into the same business that their dad went into. You can't help but want to do better. And Mark Davis wants to exceed what Al did. Now, it's never going to happen, but he wants to. And Kyle Shanahan wants to match or exceed what his father did. That's only natural. But I fear that there's this tragic story playing out for Kyle Shanahan that he won't be able to do it.
I say this to you, and you correct me if you think I'm wrong. I think Kyle Shanahan is as good as a play caller as Bill Walsh. And I think Bill Walsh, in my opinion, what he did in Cincinnati with those playoff teams and what he did in San Francisco, I think Bill Walsh may be next to Andy Reid. Those two guys, there's a couple others, maybe Joe Gibbs. You're talking about the best play calling head football coaches in pro football history.
Belichick,
I think
Belichick
he's
is
in
a
there.
Caller defensively, certainly, and as a designer of game plans, Belichick is up there too. Yeah, I mean, they're Kyle Shanahan is extraordinary at calling games because of the way that the efficiency within what they work, how he makes all the parts work together. Now they're going to be challenged here over the next 2 to 3 years because some guys are going to age out and they're going to have to replace them
and salary out.
Well, I mean, but that's just natural. I mean, Debo, look, Debo's not going to be able to play that style of game forever. Kittle's not going to play that style of game. Juszczyk is going to wear out. You're going to have to figure out how do you get a fullback who plays like that. Ayuk, you got to figure out, are you going to pay him or not? Purdy, will have to be surrounded by talent. All those things that come into the equation. But if you're talking about a guy who can design offenses, I mean, look what he did that in Atlanta. That one extraordinary year when he got on page with Matt Ryan, and Matt Ryan had, his MVP season and outperformed his own baseline, his normal performance by, he was 10% better than he was in any other season. And some of that was, they were healthy all season, but a lot of it was they were healthy all season and they had Kyle Shanahan calling plays. And that got them within a couple of play calls of winning a Super Bowl. And yes, I think Kyle Shanahan is a genius, but I think he's that genius who's going to be reliving that Atlanta New England Super Bowl for the rest of his life, going, if I just called some running plays.
Have you been shocked with the growth of what the NFL has done with the draft? Do you know what they're expecting in 16 days? They're expecting at least 35 to 40 million people to tune into that thing over all the days that the draft is going on. And think about this, Jace. It's guys sitting at a desk going, and the Philadelphia Eagles in the 6th round draft Joe Bob Smith from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin.
Yeah, but most of it is on day one, and a lot of it is on day two. It's the day one spectacle. It is an amazing thing. Look, it's Christmas. There's 2 Christmas days in the off season for football fans. One of them is the first day of free agency. What's the new gift that you get? The other one is the first day of the draft. What's the new toy I get to play with and talk about, right? That's what it is. And they've turned it into Christmas. And that's awesome for the sport. I also look at it and go, this stuff is boring as hell.
I'm with you.
I'm like, look, I'm excited to know where they end up, but I don't want to watch it. Like, just if everybody got like 1 minute apiece, could we be done with this thing in a half an hour? Right? Like,
you could wrap that thing up in about 45 minutes if you really thought about it.
If you really want to do it, but they have made it dramatic. And again, I give them credit for it. They make money off of it. They raise, the interest level. It's all those good things, right? You could do the whole draft. Literally, you could do the whole draft in about 3 hours. If you really want to do it. They do it in 3 days. 3 days for 7 rounds. They used to do, what was the draft way back when? Like 30 rounds?
Yeah.
Way back?
Yeah.
Like 30 rounds, and they got it done.
I think my uncle was drafted in like the 19th round back in the day.
Yeah, whatever. It was some crazy number, right? It used to be there was like 10 teams. Like, okay, we get together. It's all done.
In my time, it was 12 rounds.
Yeah, and it got done in a day. A day.
Yeah,
that's all you need. Now it's 3 days for 7 rounds, and it's great drama. But no, I'm like, there's nothing interesting about this. Like, there's just nothing. I mean, from a reporter standpoint, like, the drama doesn't mean much. You get to make some phone calls to people and say, oh, who's trading for what and all that kind of stuff. And they draw that out. But you and I both know most of the trades have been talked about before they get to that day. There's not a new original, like, somebody doesn't come up with I'm thinking of moving up now. All of a sudden, it's not like that movie Draft Day. That's not real.
No,
that stuff doesn't happen.
Nobody talks to an owner like that.
No.
You imagine somebody talking to an owner, just give me 5 seconds. You'd be like, get the hell out of my room, man. That's not working.
No. So, congratulations to the NFL. They're getting 30 or 40 million people to watch guys stand at a podium.
Couple
But I will also say the greatest thing ever, and this is the one that I don't get why the union allows the players to go up and hug Roger like he's their dude. You know what I'm saying? Like,
give it a day.
But you know what? Like, if I was in charge of the union, I would say I'm going to be up on that stage too. And
do you know that makes every player sick to their stomach when they see those young kids go up there and hug that guy?
Right, but they wanted to be those guys too when they came into the league, right?
Yeah,
they didn't learn until much later. Oh, you mean he's not on our side?
Hey, Jace. So, like, because Reggie went in a supplemental draft, I went with Bosworth and Chris Carter, and there's a whole thing about it. So I had to go meet Roselle.
Yeah.
I thought Roselle was going to be like a really cool dude. I walk in there and he goes, we've heard a lot of things. And I'm like, who is this guy? And I'm going like, what? And this guy was the biggest dick on the planet to me. I'm thankful I had my agent in there, Randy Vataha, with Bob Wolf's people. Yeah. People probably don't even remember Bob Wolf. This is an ancient name back in the day.
Oh, I know Bob.
Yeah. So I'm in there, and Roselle's like, we're going to void the contract with the Bucks. I just signed like a contract that was equivalent to Jerome's, and I'm like, they gave me the check already. And I'm going like this, and I'm looking at this guy. I'm like, I have to get the money back. He goes like, no, I'm just going to hold everything off here. And so he calls me up. He goes, all right, we're going to hold a special supplemental draft for you, Bosworth, and Chris Carter. And man, ever since it was really a contentious meeting. And so when I see these players hugging Roger Goodell, I'm like, these guys don't like you, man. They do not like you.
They might, you can say, they might even like you, but his job is to make sure you don't get paid. It's to suppress your salaries. That's his job. And I don't blame him. I don't blame Roger for that being his job. Somebody's got to do that. But the whole point of management is to keep the employee salaries under control. Like that's how economics works, right? And you don't go hug that guy.
I mean, they gave us shit on the Reggie White free agency settlement. I still have the receipt from the check I got from the NFL, and the union the union had to fight to get. I think I got $19,000 from Reggie White settlement.
It was tooth and nails, wasn't it?
Oh my God! This was supposed to be the 4 games we missed. You got some compensation back.
Yeah.
And we got these checks. Guys like Montana got huge money because they missed those 4 games. I got $19,000. To me, that was a lot of money back then. And still today.
For the owners, it was tip money.
Oh God, I know. It was parking lot money, man.
Right, exactly. Hey bro, I got a roll here, but yeah, like I just when they go up and they hug the commissioner, I always cringe and I go, man, the union just doesn't get it. This is not the relationship you want to promote. So there you
go. Hey, wait, 1 second. Is Fletcher Cox a Hall of Famer?
Haven't studied enough to. I can't say yes, but I can't say no.
All right.
I think, based on longevity and the impacts that I saw, there's a good argument for him. But I don't know that it's absolutely like I don't just check the mark and go yeah.
All right.
I think Kelsey to me is closer to yes. But I was thinking about when Cox retired and he did it much quieter than Kelsey. I was like, Kelsey may actually be the Hall of Famer out of these two.
He is.
Once I study, I just haven't. So
I think Fletcher's right there, but I'm with you. I think there needs to be a lot of diving in here on that. I appreciate it, Jace. Thank you so much. You got it, my friend. I'll say this to you about Fletcher Cox Hall of Fame. He's not a Hall of Famer. It's close. Was he better than Ndamukong Suh? He was not better than Ndamukong Suh. And I would think that Ndamukong Suh is close in a debate for Hall of Fame. Was he better than him? Now, Ndamukong Suh's got a world champion trophy too. But I don't believe that Fletcher's was a better ball player than Ndamukong Suh. And if I had to vote, and I would think those were the two interior tackles during their time, taking Donald out of the conversation, I think Suh was slightly better.